Hello BookTube, welcome back to my 2026 library tour. Today I'm going to be starting with Gitanjali Shree. This is Tomb of Sand, translated from the Hindi by Daisy Rockwell. This won the International Booker Prize in 2022 or 2023. It's set in India and Pakistan, but from the partition to the near present. This is a book that I have some unfinished business with, even though I'm not entirely sure why. I think when I tried to read it a few years ago, things just petered out. Deer Trails by Kim Shuck. This is a slim volume of poetry from San Francisco's former poet laureate. Kim Shuck also curates a monthly poetry jam at the San Francisco Public Library. And I've been wanting her to collect something by her for quite a while, and I finally found this collection. So, looking forward to reading it. Anywhere But Here by Mona Simpson. This is Mona Simpson's debut novel. I've been wanting to read something by Mona Simpson for quite a number of years, and I just recently added this to my collection. Haven't read it yet, though. This is about a mother and daughter going on a road trip with the hope of, at the end, of bettering their lives, and not necessarily succeeding in the way that either one hopes. The next two collections of poetry are by one of my favorite poets, Austin Smith. This is his first collection, Almanac. Both of his work is published by Princeton University Press as part of the Princeton series of Contemporary Poets series. So this is a wonderful collection. I absolutely love it. I also really love Smith's second collection of poetry, Flyover Country. This is also phenomenal. I love it. Sticking with poetry, this in with a poet surnamed Smith. This is The Intentions of Thunder by Patricia Smith. It's a new and selected collection of poetry, and this is really good, particularly the earlier collections. They are phenomenal. After Parties by Anthony Visanaso. This is a short story collection from an author who sadly died too soon. This is his only work. Trippus by Brandon Somm. This won the Pulitzer Prize in Poetry for 2024 and was a finalist for the 2023 National Book Award for Poetry. It's a good collection. I liked it, but not necessarily one of my favorites. Although I do need to reread this one and another one that I talked about a few days ago. The Fairy Queen by Edmund Spenser. This is a massive work of Renaissance literature that recasts or reinterprets the Arthurian mythos. It's a monumental work. I've read the first book of The Fairy Queen, but I haven't read the whole of it. I tried to a few years ago and it didn't quite work, but maybe one of these days I will read the whole of The Fairy Queen. The Patrick Melrose novels by Edward St. Aubyn. This omnibus includes Nevermind, Bad News, Some Hope, and Mother's Milk. I've been wanting to try something by Edward St. Aubyn for about a year now, and so I decided to pick this omnibus collection up. Although I might also pick up his most recent book soon too. Glossary for the End of Days by Ian Stansel. This is a short story collection published by Acre, which has some sort of relationship to the University of Cincinnati and is distributed by the University of Chicago Press. This and another short story collection that will show up, I think, tomorrow. I picked up a few years ago with a catalog sale. So, excuse me, Early Morning Frog. So, the University of Chicago Press is most famous for their big months-long catalog sale. But throughout the year, they will also do subject-oriented catalog sales, and also sometimes email sales. In a few weeks, I will have a poetry haul that will feature 7 volumes of poetry that I picked up from National Poetry Month themed email haul or email online sale. Glossary for the End of Days I picked up in a subject themed catalog sale for English and literature, or literature and criticism, which is usually more criticism than literature, but sometimes there will be some works of fiction and poetry. Usually more fiction than poetry, though. So, anyway, I need to revisit this collection of short fiction, though, because I didn't particularly get on with it when I tried it the first time around. Next is The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. This is a classic of American literature. It's set during the Great Depression, and it's about a family named the Jodes who leave their farm in Oklahoma just as it's being repossessed by the bank and moving to California in hopes of a new life, and how that, at least by the end of the novel, hasn't happened. I read it. I tried it when I was a teenager, and I think I fully read it sometime in my 20s, and then got rid of that copy during a really silly purge of my fiction, poetry, and drama collection later in my 20s or early 30s, and then added this edition to my collection a few years ago, and then tried to read it 1 year and didn't quite work. But hopefully I'll come back to it. Well, I will come back to it. Limited Editions by Carol Stone. This is a same volume of poetry from Kevin Carey Press, distributed by the University of Chicago Press. This is a really good collection of poetry that deals with the death of a loved one. So the next the next two are by Douglas Stewart. First up is Shree Bain, which won the 2020 Booker Prize. This is about the relationship of a young boy and his alcoholic mother. I've been wanting to read Douglas Stewart for quite some time, and so I recently picked up his first two novels from Blackwell's, the bookseller in the UK who ship across the world. His second novel is Young Mungo, which is about a young man, Mungo, who is gay and a Protestant. He's in love with a young man named James, who's a Catholic. At this time in the 80s in Edinburgh or Glasgow, there's some sectarian violence, and Mungo is caught out by his older brother, and I guess to straighten him out, he is sent by his mother with two alcoholics to go fishing, and things go to hell in a handbasket. Next is Raise the Red Lantern by Su Tong, translated from the Mandarin by Michael S. Duke. So, this is another long overdue reacquisition on my part. So, back in the late 90s, very early 2000s, I was big on international cinema, and one of the TV channel Bravo in the United States, which is now basically just reality TV poop, at the time was more of a cultural channel, and they would every Sunday air foreign language films, including several from mainland China and Taiwan. And one of those movies was Raise the Red Lantern, starring Gong Li. And so Raise the Red Lantern is based on this novella by Su Tong. And in Raise the Red Lantern, a intelligent young woman decides to marry a local wealthy merchant who already has 3 other wives. And basically, the sign of the husband's favor is by, or the wife that he's going to spend the night with is denoted by whether or not a red lantern is lighted at her bedroom. And the 4 wives are basically at each other's throats, and gradually the main character is driven insane. So I really enjoyed the movie, even though I cannot find it right now. And I eventually learned that it was based on, or that there was a novella. And so I eventually picked it up and read it and really enjoyed it, and then got rid of it and regretted it. So in addition to Raise the Red Lantern, there is 1934 Escapes an Opium Family. So, just recently re-added this to my collection. Lives of the Caesars by Suetonius, translated from the Latin by Catherine Edwards. Classic work of Roman history, Roman biography. Waterland by Graham Swift. This was shortlisted for the Booker Prize in 1983, the year of my birth, and was not one of the books that I selected several years ago to read for the birth year reading project or whatever. Instead, I picked it up much more recently. And very happy that I did, because reading it this past February was really nice. I love this book. This is a weird novel about a teacher who is being made redundant from his job, and his wife has committed an attempted kidnapping of a child that as part of the repercussions, has necessitated his resignation, as well as his job being made redundant. And so, as the narrator is leaving his job, he basically jettisons his syllabus, and basically just tells his students about his youth in the east of England, and it is amazing. It is just an amazing novel. I love it. So the next 2 poetry collections are by Fiona Z. Lorraine. First up is The Ruined Elegance, which is a really good collection of poetry. It's from the Princeton University Press. It's part of the Princeton series of contemporary poets. Her second collection is Rain in Plural, or at least from Princeton University Press. I'm pretty sure a number that she does have other work outside of Princeton University Press. And this is also pretty good too. The next 3 books are by Wisława Szymborska, the great Polish poet. First up is Sounds, Feelings, Thoughts, 70 poems, translated from the Polish by Magnus J. Krinsky and Robert A. McGuire. This is early translation of her work from Princeton University Press as part of the Lockhart Library of Poetry and Translation. Now, this is a more recent reprinting of that earlier translation. And so it does include the even numbered Polish original and then the odd numbered English translation. So I picked this up a few years ago. And so this is a markedly different collection than the other two that I have by her, which I will show you right now. So the first collection of Wisława Szymborska's poetry that I ever owned was View with a Grain of Sand, selected poems. And this collection is translated from the Polish by Stanislaw Baranczak and Claire Kavanaugh. And this is phenomenal. I have had this collection for over 20 years, and I still love it every time I read it. A few years ago, I picked up Map, Collected and Last Poems, which is also translated by Claire Kavanaugh and Stanislaw Baranczak. Sticking with poetry, this is A Kiss for the Absolute, the selected poems of Shuzo Takaguchi, translated from the Japanese by Mary Jo Bang and Yuki Tanaka, who we will see tomorrow. So Takaguchi's poetry is mostly rather prose poems with a very surrealist bent, and I have some very serious unfinished business with this collection. And again, this is part of the Lockhart Library of Poetry and Translation from Princeton University Press. So the Japanese original is on the even-numbered pages, and the English translation is on the odd-numbered pages. So the last three books on this shelf are by authors surnamed Tan. First up is Amy Tan with the Joy Luck Club. Amy Tan is a writer or an author who specializes in Asian American family drama. The Joy Luck Club is her debut and is about a group of Chinese immigrants who have come together in friendship and the troubles they have with their daughters. I have been wanting to read this novel for a very long time. I think I've seen the movie adaptation of it, but I'm not sure. I have read Amy Tan's second novel, The Kitchen God's Wife, which is again about mother-daughter relationships in the Chinese diaspora community. But in this case, the mother has a very interesting story to tell about her life in China before she came to the United States. And I read this when I was a teenager and was amazed. And then I got rid of that copy and kicked myself in the keister for it. And just recently, I added this edition back to my collection. The last book on the shelf is The Garden of Evening Mists by Tan Twang Ing. This is a novel set in Malaysia shortly after World War II, and is about a young woman who becomes obsessed with Japanese gardens. I just recently added this to my collection, and I'm planning on reading this novel in May. So look forward to my May reading plan next week. So that concludes the middle shelf of the final bookcase of my 2026 library tour. I will be back tomorrow morning with the penultimate shelf, so look forward to that. And until then, thank you, BookTube, and have a great morning, and see you soon. Assuming